Willie Taggart's new head coach at Oregon. He is now one of 3 assistants who, look at Jim Harbaugh, who now his coaching tree continues to spread, right? Head coach of Maryland, formerly his guy. Willie Taggart was formerly his guy. He's been absolutely incredible. And so Taggart comes having been a head coach at Western Kentucky and then South Florida, and now he travels all the way to the Pacific Northwest and he's at Oregon. Now, the interesting part about the Oregon deal is that he was actually their second choice. Now, I'm not being critical of Willie Taggart and getting a job as your second choice. It's like many guys will use that line like, hey, I was my wife's second choice, right? But it's more that Matt Rule was their first choice. He's the new head coach at Baylor. And he chose the job over the Oregon job. And that sounds crazy, right? Because Baylor, built from nothing into something, has never been in a BCS national championship game, right? Has never been in the college football playoff and appears to be kind of a gut job. It's the largest Baptist university in the country. How does that compete with Nike money, with Phil Knight, and with Oregon? And I would say there's a couple of trends. Like, I'm big on trends. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Like, I'll be honest with Rule coming in. I'll be interested to see. He's a defensive mastermind. As good as Tom Herman's offenses had been, the team they struggled against was Temple. Temple was in their league. So he knows how to slow down and maybe even stop the spread offense. Granted, going to be a lot better athletes running the exact same offenses with better quarterbacks in the Big 12. But that's really what got Charlie Strong fired, was he couldn't stop those offenses. Really, it's what limited Baylor. Was as good as Baylor was on offense. They weren't Texas Tech on defense, but they weren't great. And I guess for me, trend-wise, who's going to be the guy that zags when everybody else is zigging, right? Who's going to be the pro-style guy when everybody else in the Big 12 is running some form of oop-de-oop or air raid sort of offense? But trends inside of coaching, really, really interesting. And I wonder if this is a trend that, whether it's Chip Kelly not wanting to recruit but also not wanting to go back to the college thing, or other big names staying away from Oregon. Like, look, I told you guys, I think Houston is a better job than Oregon. Now, doesn't mean you have the resources of Oregon, but being successful is not just about the resources. And can I call Phil Knight? And do we have the sickest stadium? They got an awesome one. Do they have the best facilities? They do. Do they have great fans? They do. The biggest thing is, hey, I got to go somewhere there's players. Also, it's, can I compete at the top of the league? And when I told you about Oregon, why the job has changed is, I think, threefold. One, now all of a sudden Washington is back. Chris Peterson's exceptionally well respected. They're starting to get really good athletes. They also redid their stadium, redid their facilities. They'll never have the Nike resources that Oregon has as long as Phil Knight's alive. But they put $300+ million into their facilities. It's pretty good. And see, the state of Washington, while it doesn't produce the most players, produces more than Oregon does. Colorado's back. When Colorado's been good, they've recruited Oregon. And we recruited California. And USC appears to be back as well. It makes the job increasingly difficult because the Pac-12 is, once USC's off probation, it's a totally different league. They're going to get the best players. UCLA, Cal, Washington, Colorado, Oregon, fighting for everybody else in California. Secondly, do you want to coach at a program that is essentially controlled by one or two big boosters that are only truly satisfied if you ultimately win a national championship? Like Mike Gundy's name was leaked with both of those jobs. Why would Mike Gundy leave his alma mater where they're paying him $4.5 million? It's simple. He's had 2 great years. And I'm sure part of him's like, hey, why is Boone Pickens on my tail when we won 10 games the past 2 years instead of saying thank you? So I think those are trends. I think they saw what happened to Charlie Strong and that he was kind of strong-armed out of Texas because the boosters never wanted him to begin with. I think they see the power of Phil Knight. That scares some people away. You understand that some leagues are easier to compete in. That's my argument for Houston. They'll pay you $5 million or $3 or $4 million, enough money. All the players are right there, and you got the best job in the league to which you can win 10, 12 games. You can stay if you want to stay. If you want to leave, you leave.